live from beautiful Bristol, Tennessee. Cold, frigid,
Oh, yeah.
awful, brutal, frigid, cold Tennessee. It's not supposed to be like this here.
No, I'm ready. I'm already ready for spring. Let's get spring rolling. How about that?
Yeah, we moved here from Colorado, and I thought for sure, I was 100% sure we won. You know what I mean? Like Colorado just legalized marijuana. Winters were snowy and cold, and we got here that first winter, and it was like, this is not winter.
Yeah.
This is like Indian summer. It's
Yeah.
great. Can you still say Indian summer? I don't even know.
I don't know if you can or not.
Yeah, we shouldn't say that. I don't want to be.
I never know. I never know what I'm allowed to say.
But buddy, we felt winter. It's been winter here. So.
Oh yeah, it's been. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm already ready for spring. We're only in January.
And I blame it on climate change. I mean, I don't know what else to blame it on. It's climate change. The fires in California. Did you see there's posts floating around of houses, complete neighborhoods gone. And the trees around them are perfectly intact. Yeah.
I haven't seen that. Now, I saw the one guy. I've actually have a really big, sad story about the wildfires. This is very, very important here.
Okay.
Can you read that headline?
Wow.
Yeah. Hunter Biden's art. What a loss. What a loss to the culture. 200 paintings in the Pacific Palisades. He says the art could be worth $30 million. And good thing for him, though, he had it insured.
Good thing.
So
I
we'll
wonder
see
if
he gets a
there
payout
is.
for it.
I wonder if that is inflating the estimated value of something.
That's a valid point. I mean, it seems like somebody got in trouble for that.
Did somebody not just get in trouble
I
for
think
that?
somebody pretty high up the food chain got in trouble for inflating the value of a house. I mean, I guess maybe that's
Which took a lot to build,
well.
and the price of land, and
In this instance, he's trying to defraud the insurance companies. So there's got to be court hearings. It's got to go to the, it's all about law and order. Nobody's above the law.
yeah, nobody is above the law.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. And of course he's got a blanket pardon. So
Oh, he is above the law.
yeah. I guess that's the way it goes.
So
on
why
that.
did he stop at what was it, 300 million or 30? What was pull that headline?
Yeah.
I
It
think
was 30 million.
30 million.
That's the estimated value.
Why not shoot for 60?
I can't remember let me look at it again. The value or what he'd gotten millions in insurance coverage. Interestingly enough, right before the fire.
Right before the fire.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and on the heels of news that Jeffrey Epstein's estate is getting a $112 million tax refund, we now learned that Hunter Biden might be getting a massive $30 million insurance settlement. The 200 or so of his paintings that burned in the L.A. wildfires were insured for millions.
Wow.
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to scribble a bunch of garbage on a piece of canvas and, wildfires come around and you get a big old insurance payout?
It looks like in this picture he's wearing a Nantucket shirt. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it is.
This art has become such trash. There's I think we talked about it once.
The banana with a duct tape banana.
Yeah, taping a banana to a piece of drywall.
Yeah.
Now the Bitcoin guy, I think wasn't he a Bitcoiner? He's a crypto
guy. Yeah.
billionaire.
Yeah.
Bought it and then ate the banana in front of everybody on.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? It's like the other guy. I saw another one of the guy that bought Taylor Swift auction guitar.
And smashed it with a hammer.
Smashed it with a hammer. Yeah.
Oh, there was one, but people have compared it. The art degrees. This is what they always say: art degrees, and then they'll show modern art. There's one that I was going to pull up here of a guy who just stacked up buckets of sand. The bottom one has a plug in it. He pulls the plug out of it. The sand drains from the bucket, and they all fall over. And he goes, "Ta-da! That's art." And that's an art degree. But you go back before art degrees, and you've got Da Vinci.
You've got art.
You've got actual art.
Yeah.
And it's trash anymore. There's nothing.
I will say, I'm like looking around the studio. The stuff that you do is really artistic. You're a very artistic person. I always
compliment. Well, I appreciate that. I always say that I went from destroying things as an artillery officer to creating things. As a photographer. Like, photography is really fun.
Speaking of, so you were in service.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's a bit of a, I don't know if you follow this or not. I know you do, but I don't know if you follow this or not. But we've got a confirmation hearing on the Hill with a gentleman named Peter Hegseth.
Oh yeah, Pete
Okay.
Hegseth, yeah.
And I don't know if this is part of the agenda tonight. I'm not 100% certain, but we're just going to go there because we need to go there.
Yeah.
Are the standards different for women?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. Yeah. They have here's what's kind of happened over time. Well, not over time. In the past few years, we went from the standard Army physical fitness test. That's your baseline standard for physical fitness anyway. And it was push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you had times, male and female standards. There were 2 standards. They went to the ACFT, the Army Combat Fitness Test, which is much more expansive. And they said we're going to do 1 standard. And that was their first attempt at it. But with the 1 standard, I think it was 60%. I didn't have that part of it on the agenda. I would have to look at it. It was about 60%, 70% of the women couldn't make the minimum score that everybody was required to make. So they said, well, we have to go back to a male-female standard. And that's where we are now. So there is a male-female standard. Pete Hegseth is saying that we need to go back to a 1-person or just a 1-soldier standard, and that 40% of women
that don't make the cut don't make the cut.
Well, right. Well, the 60% that don't make the cut.
Right.
It's a huge knock to our numbers. That's something I'll be interested to see how he's going to do that. But it gives everybody the same. If women want to be in combat, perfectly fine with that. Well, I'm not fine with that. I'm not fine with them in combat arms.
Okay.
And that's just flat out, women should not be in combat situations. And it's not because I don't think they're capable or they can't be lethal. It's the environment that you have to fight in, first off. The people who are making these decisions have never been in some, crappy fire base in Afghanistan. They've never been shoved out in the middle of nowhere, and they don't understand the conditions that people still lived in all the way up until the more or less the end of the conflict. So that's the first off. And then you're putting guys and gals in that situation. Women have always had a standard for hygiene, as an example. They have to be able to go in, we call it refit. But you have to go in and refit every so often. So, they have certain hygiene requirements that are different than dudes. It's, so anyway, they accounted for that. But you're putting them and the male soldiers, men and women, together in out in the middle of nowhere.
What could go wrong?
So much can go wrong. And they had you can still have, like, as an example, if a woman gets pregnant, there's still Uniform Code of Military Justice. You can get in trouble if you get pregnant while you're deployed. You get I think it's an Article 15, a field grade Article 15. But so there's ramifications for it, but the biology of men and women, sometimes that doesn't go,
we are going to
men's brains don't function.
Thanks, Jared. We just lost half our audience.
The final point.
If there was a tall knockout brunette next to me in a foxhole, and she was in there with Tim, I'd be like, hey, Tim, I'll trade you for a Kit Kat bar.
And before I forget,
trade foxholes. Come on.
Well, before I forget, there's 2 more points I want to make.
Go for it. Yeah.
One of them is injury. So it's proven that men, when a woman is injured, less, when you triage casualties, a man tends to go for a woman who is less injured than a mortally injured man because they have a protective instinct. God put that in men to be protectors. It's
not my fault.
Exactly. And so that causes I
could definitely see, like, the chivalry part. It's not chivalry; it's genetic coding,
right?
That makes us go. We're to provide. We're to we're to guard them. We're to shelter. We're to And so when you see a woman hurt, even if you don't know them, you're more than likely going to help her first. I get that.
Well, and we could talk about how that's been diluted in our society.
Yes, it has.
Feminism has done that, and male feminists are, what we've shown, the women the woman that got burned alive on the subway, the woman that got, assaulted in a very bad way on a bus, and everybody stood around. Some people even recorded it. That stuff is being lost in our society. But in the military, that's still a thing. And the last point I was going to make was, just the sheer physical differences.
Yeah,
a man with full battle rattle. And he's got, his UBL of ammunition. He's got his Kevlar. He's got plates.
60 plus pounds, right?
Yeah. You've got a ton of weight on you. And in a firefight, 145-pound woman, she might do well on the ACFT and make the bare minimum standard. But when it comes time to drag 250 pounds of dead weight, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to
happen.
happen.
And a 145-pound woman is a healthy woman.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you my wife's weight. It's not that. Like, I will tell you this though, she'd throw me over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
tough
the
as a-
kids. You got the kids you're toting around all day. You talk about endurance.
Yeah.
She's
Well, tough as a 10-penny nail. That's what my dad always said.
yeah, tough as a 10-penny nail.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So
But no, Pete Hegseth, he's saying he's going to bring back this standard, and that doesn't fit with the Democrats are making the argument all through his hearing that this idea that there's a difference. They're playing the same woke nonsense. That this idea, how dare you say,
how dare you,
that women aren't as lethal as men?
how dare you?
That your trigger finger works fine, but there's more to being a soldier than pulling a trigger.
Yeah. In fact, pulling the trigger is probably only about 0.0006 of the job.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's
well, and a lot of the other stuff, but it's just the physicality of it.
Yeah.
And politicians don't understand it.
Yep. I have no idea because I'm not in the military, never had the opportunity to serve. I instead chose to serve in a different army. That's the Lord's army.
Right.
And so, but I don't get a discount
Which
for
is
doing that.
Which is insanely admirable, by the way.
Well, thank you.
And I missionaries are another group.
Oh man, I can't.
Those
Missionaries, I just sit back and marvel
Yeah.
at the faith that it takes.
There they
to
go. I talked to a guy. He's been in medical missions for 40 years, and this guy he's been he was in the Rwanda genocide. He's been in Ukraine during conflict. He was in Somalia during Black Hawk Down that time, and he's there, goes into country, he's not carrying a weapon.
Right.
He is getting shot at.
Have you heard the
He's risking
stories of
getting-
these guys though?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like to walk out knowing that people are there to kill them,
Yeah.
and they walk out and the people that are there to kill them don't see them. They walk right through a crowd of people who are armed and ready to hang them and string them up, and they don't even see them there.
Yeah.
It is amazing what God does to protect. And listen, it doesn't happen all the time. I get that. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of Christians that are murdered every year.
Yeah.
If not millions.
They are the most persecuted. Christians are the most persecuted religion on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. People don't like to admit that, or don't like to say that. But,
Right.
Certain.
Well, no,
people.
you don't want to say that. Don't say that.
Yeah. But I can go back to this Pete Hegseth thing. This is actually pretty interesting, and this is a comparison that somebody else came up with the comparison, but I'd forgotten about this video. They're saying that he's not qualified for the position.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the FAA. This is just as a quick comparison here. This is Biden's head of the FAA, Federal Aviation Commission.
Yeah.
Listen, have you seen this?
I have. You gotta.
Oh,
give
yeah.
us the volume.
My audio is going to the wrong place here. Let me send it to the right one. I had it off here. I mean, I've got two comparisons. One is something else they talked about is alcohol use. And Mark Wayne Mullen had a great.
What airspace requires an ADS-B transponder?
Not sure I can answer that question right now.
That's okay. We'll just keep going. So that's a pretty important part. So what are the 6 types of special use airspace that protect this national security that appear on FAA charts?
Sorry, Senator, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, so what are the operational limitations of a pilot flying under basic med?
Senator, I'm not a pilot, so.
But obviously you'd oversee the Federal Aviation Administration. So any idea what those restrictions are under basic med, quickly?
Well, some of the restrictions I think would be high blood pressure. Some of them would be.
It's more like how many passengers per airplane, how many pounds in different categories, and what altitude you can fly under. So, and then.
I mean, this was just an absolute embarrassment.
Well,
But
but what happened with it? Did he end up?
yeah,
I mean, he's got the job.
yeah.
So it's kind of like Hunter Biden's artwork. Just, and we wonder why we have so many air traffic delays and problems, and
The head of the FAA doesn't even understand.
right.
Now,
Well, good thing he's got Pete Buttigieg
oh gosh,
to. Yeah, go on.
to handle it,
Yeah.
Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
So this one was Mark Wayne Mullen, and everybody. Pete Hegseth. He's a born again Christian. He's
he's not perfect.
He's not perfect, but most of the things they're referring to are in the past. These are distant, and I don't believe that I'm aware of any recently. There could be some that were more recent but he and his wife have been through a lot through his nefarious activities, all that stuff. He has turned his life around. He does a lot of really good stuff.
A gaggle of children. It's yeah.
But what they do is they point out all these faults, and they're always coming from a position of moral superiority.
Yes, they are.
The politicians do.
Yep.
And so Mark Wayne Mullen, the senator, actually just called them all out on it. It was beautiful.
But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see. But in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary of Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But we so quickly forget about that. And then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? Mm-hmm. No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me to be here.
Boom.
I mean, it couldn't have been said any better. I'm not necessarily a big fan of Senator Mullen, rather, but you can't argue with the point.
Can't argue
with the points. You really can't.
And yet you've got these senators who are, Elizabeth Warren, which Pete Hegseth kind of, from what I understand, fought his own battle there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we have that clip.
Oh, the clip with him and I can find it real quick.
And Pocahontas.
Yeah, I can find that one.
But while you're looking for that, I want to come back to this. We're going to just circle back just for a second, because, you've got a guy who made a lot of mistakes in his life. He was a celebrity, and I know we've been down this rabbit trail on this show. When does man's story of redemption, is it possible in politics to redeem yourself?
It's an interesting question, because my take on it is that they, as an individual, as a political operative that they are, is how they act. They're not, but as a representative, they can say that, I am, but their political opposition can never be.
Right.
So it's how you conduct yourself now. And that's a difference a lot of times between Republicans and Democrats, is Republicans, will look back at things that people have done, and not everybody, not across the board, but in general, it's like, you did this, but you've become that. We can acknowledge that. You look back and say, you did this and you're still doing this, and now you're expecting leadership. Well, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the difference is. The Democrats don't believe in redemption because they don't believe, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, I don't want to say that. I was going to say that they have a belief issue, I would say.
Well, I mean, but you can't, we're going to, as soon as I say the words, we're going to be on a rabbit trail, so I better be careful. Mm-hmm. But you can't support killing the unborn and have a right relationship with Christ.
Yeah, no, you can't.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, this is great.
Here's the one with Pete Hegseth and Elizabeth Warren. This one was great. Oh, where'd my mouse go? There it went.
In other words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals.
So good.
It's like in her face, the system reboot. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like, oh yeah.
you know, you got to give it to him. Trump has picked a lot of very quick people,
Yeah, he has.
quick and witty folks.
Yep, he has.
Very
And
quick and witty.
and it's great. And I hope and pray that we stay the course for another week without any catastrophe or without any, I still, and we've said it before, I still feel like there's something.
Yeah,
I just feel like they're planning something.
yeah.
So
Well, this was from James O'Keefe Media Group, and he got undercover footage. This is from the Post Millennial. If y'all don't know, if you're a new watcher, excuse me, the Post Millennial is absolutely fantastic. But former Hillary Clinton staffer turned FBI spy hunter, I believe that's a self-proclaimed spy hunter, and DOD senior advisor claims to be plotting with retired generals to protect America from Trump. When asked about it, he said, asked, what do you think of Trump? He said, he's a sociopathic narcissist who is only interested in advancing his name, his wealth, and his fame. Do you get that impression from Donald Trump?
dead solid.
Dead solid. I mean, in some ways, yes. He is narcissistic.
He is who he is.
He is who he is.
I don't have a problem with that, especially when you consider the fact that today, we're getting hostages.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll pull that one up.
We're going to
in
get
just a
to
minute.
that, right?
Oh yeah.
And right now, we're going to probably own or have a big share with Greenland, right? Like like all the things that he's not even in office yet. He's not even there, and all these things are happening. It's part of his. It's part of his persona. It's part of his. It's almost like he has his own theme music,
Right.
and that theme music is,
That's a good way to look at it.
everywhere he goes, it's playing, and people are like, "Okay, look out! Here comes the Trump." And it's like he's going to get his way. He's going to bully his way through it. He's going to do what he wants to do, and there's a lot of that narcissism and all that you're just like, oh, I feel bad for Melania,
Yeah.
But on the flip side, to run a country, to run businesses, to do what he's done, you've got to be a little bit self-serving. And lucky us, that self is the nation. Mm-hmm. When he's in office, it's not about me, it's about the country. And yeah, it'll be about him in the end because everything he's going to do is benefit all of us, including him. But when you look at it that way, you go, I kind of get it. He's America first because he's an American. And so, yeah, if it serves his own interests, so be it. But it's going to help me too.
Yeah.
So-
And I think the what he's been through, the assassination attempts, the political prosecutions that are all this stuff being pulled out of thin air to try to put him in prison for 375 years. You don't go through that. Like he already had he had the gold ring. He had a hit TV show. He was a billionaire. He had everything he could ever want. And nobody's necessarily ever satisfied. There's a lot of billionaires who just keep working over just day after day after day.
Absolutely.
Because it's more about the achievement. It's more about moving forward. If you stop working, you die. Basically, is kind of what how these guys approach it.
Yep.
And they love what they're doing.
They love what they do.
But for him, it's the actual risking of his life to do something because he cares about, yes, America. He loves, you see him walk out and he's hugging the flag and all that. And it's not an act. He actually loves this country because
it made him.
It made him who he is.
Yeah.
And he's been immensely successful, and he wants to set the conditions for America and other companies to continue to be successful.
Correct.
So it's only a narcissist in the most shallow of terms, But when you look at his overall performance and you look at the risk that he is taking to become president of the United States, that's not narcissism. That's devotion to your country.
I agree. I agree with you. But I do like the fact that he's coming up with the external revenue service. Did you
I didn't
hear
see
about
that.
this? Yeah. So the external revenue service is in charge of actually making sure that tariffs, taxes are paid
I like
by other
that.
countries, which apparently we've got some major outstanding stuff.
Yeah.
And my thought on that is, I wonder how much, and I guess I could probably just look it up, how much is outstanding that we have to have an external revenue service. And if that means the internal revenue service is going to be kind of like, yeah, we don't really actually need you anymore at all.
That's how we paid for everything in the past.
That's how it's always been.
It's always been that way.
That's how it was that's how it was set up in the beginning, right? And then all of a sudden we got our, so maybe we'll go back to the actual framework. And
Well, that's why I like tariffs. If we wanted to go to war in the past, buy war bonds. If you're so gung ho about helping Ukraine to get you, then fine. You buy the weapons. You go buy the war bond. You'll make your 4% interest or 5% interest, but nobody wants to do it. It's like when they say the guys that go on the man on the street. I was watching this dude, and he said he had a pad and he said, I've got a petition here for free college for every American. And they were like, yeah, are you on board with that? Will you sign my petition? They said, yeah, he signed it. Then he goes to the second page and he says, okay, how much of your paycheck would you like to donate?
right.
And they're like, oh,
Crickets. Crickets.
I can't do that. It's like, no, but you support
you said
this.
you support it.
Yeah. And so people don't even know where the money comes from. This is why it's easy to support sending $300 billion, $200 billion to a foreign country because they don't know where the money comes from. But these generals, this is really wild. So a new investigative report from O'Keefe Media Group reveals spy hunter Jamie Menina denigrating President-elect Donald Trump as well as incoming Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth over the course of several fake dates with an OMG undercover journalist. He reveals the nature of his work in the Pentagon and his background in government, going back to his work for Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. He believes that Trump will attempt to remain in office past the end of his term in the White House. Quote, I predict Trump will probably entertain publicly the idea of staying in office, changing the laws to stay in office, which he's not allowed to do by Constitution, but he'll probably suggest it, and there will probably be an effort to try. I'm so tired of people making this argument. They said he was going to do it after he won in 2016. He was going to stay in, even though Joe Biden won the election, Donald Trump's going to stay in office. No, he left.
He left.
And that
Not, by God, not without a fight.
Right.
Not
Right.
without an insurgency.
Yeah.
That he didn't create.
Wasn't actually an insurgency, but
It wasn't nothing like that.
But the quote this guy had that was really crazy is he said, I've been in conversation with a couple of retired generals to explore what we can do. Jamie Menina, advisor to the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon, former FBI special agent, disclosed to an undercover, let's see, where was it? I just lost my place.
I love O'Keefe's stuff.
Oh, his stuff is fantastic.
It catches them red-handed. I love it.
Yeah. These catfishing things they're a great way to get information. And these guys, they get a couple of drinks in them.
Yeah.
And regardless of who they're talking to, they get on a date, and it's about trying to impress people,
Yep.
But anyway, they're talking about what they can do to, I lost my spot here. Either way, they're trying to figure out what they can do to disrupt Trump. And they're saying to protect Americans from Trump.
Yeah.
Come on. This is.
Which the funny thing about that is I guess we really are that stupid that we voted him in.
Right.
The popular vote.
Yeah.
Like we're that bad that we just don't know. Yeah. So we're going to have to protect you from this maniacal, narcissist.
That level, that is true narcissism. When you the
yes.
guy, this guy that we're talking about, that's a true narcissist. These people are nowhere near as intelligent, as informed, as capable as I am and as my agencies are. And
we need to step up and we need to protect them because they're incapable.
Because they're just too stupid.
They're too stupid.
They can't make decisions for themselves.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Don't they watch CNN?
Seriously.
They don't know.
Watch CNN for 5 minutes and you will realize
how stupid you are and how wrong you are.
It's really.
Are they still on the air? Even CNN? I can't.
Yeah, I think the Hallmark Channel beat them.
I'm sure.
I'm fairly
we
certain.
had Christmas. I mean, Christmas on the Hallmark Channel that's big.
Yeah.
We're just through it.
Well,
so.
yeah, but I mean, I'm sure January Hallmark Channel is pretty low, and I think they're tanking. They're tanking. MSNBC is still tanking. There's YouTubers. You can watch these YouTubers out here that are absolutely blowing them. Tim Pool blew MSNBC out of the water in the key demo. Or no, it wasn't. It was Jimmy Kimmel. He beat Jimmy Kimmel. He's a YouTuber.
He beat Jimmy Kimmel.
And he beat Jimmy Kimmel. And he actually posted this. I didn't pull it up, but he said, we actually beat Jimmy Kimmel in the key demo. And he said, now I feel kind of bad about talking, or I feel wrong about talking down to the little guy. Is what it was like really needling him for beating him in the key demo. And I was like,
great.
Jimmy Kimmel's been in show business forever and a YouTuber. It just shows you people are tired of it.
Yeah. People are changing. People are changing where they're getting their news. People are changing everything. And I mean, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, with all the stuff, I mean, we've had so many incredible, huge distractions, right? We've had drones and orbs and, crazy upon crazy, and how that's not, I mean, you think about that 30 years ago, 20 years ago, that's the end of the world. I mean,
Right.
it's on. And now we're just kind of like, oh, we're over it already. It's not in the news. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody still knows what it. Do we know what they were? Does anybody come out with anything? No. We're just going to forget about it like it never happened. And California wildfires already barely, yes, they're catastrophic and they're still on the news, but it's nothing like it was a week ago. We've already forgotten about North Carolina. We've already forgotten about our neighbors here in Tennessee. I mean, we've forgotten about them. In so much that the Amish are showing up to build houses because the government's doing nothing, right?
I don't know if you saw, but the government was actually keeping people out of the houses. They had these tiny houses built by the Amish. People are sleeping in tents beside the tiny house because I always say the person in white tennis shoes with a clipboard came in and said, these don't meet the proper code. You can't sleep in this. Yeah. So you and your family
can sleep in this tent outside in winter.
And then what happens? Child services come and they take the kids because they're in unsafe conditions. So they have a perfectly safe condition beside them in a tiny house built by the Amish, which I don't know if you've ever seen those guys build.
They can build.
They can build. They can build.
Yeah.
And they say, nope, that doesn't work. Stay in a tent. And now that you're in a tent, we're going to take your kids from you. Yeah.
And this is, why? It's because they didn't use screws. They used wood pegs.
Right.
Houses with wood pegs are not safe. You can't do that.
Golly, give me a wood peg over a Chinese-made screw any day.
That's ridiculous. I mean, who would have thought it?
Well, they shouldn't be using screws, but Chinese nails, I guess.
Yeah. So, at any rate, it's bad. I mean, it's bad how fast things are moving, and we tend to. I think our attention span is so. I came in the other night and they had some celebrity on trying to raise money and everything for the California situation, which is tragic. Everybody, we need to pray for them. They're Californians that need help, and we need to be there for them. But it also made me a little bit angry because none of that was for North Carolina. You didn't get half of the outcry for the people in North Carolina. Yeah. And the last time I checked, it's more devastating what happened here than what's happening out there.
Yeah.
And so I kind of sit back and go, we're not trying to compare catastrophes. That's not the right way to do things, because a catastrophe is a catastrophe. A life is a life. However, it would be nice if our news media could stay on topic for longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't get the ratings.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if we could stay on topic and go back to here's more, we need more help here. We need, it's not over for these people. It's just beginning.
Yeah.
And
Joe Rogan was talking about this the other day, the Lahaina fire. Was it Lahaina?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Lahaina. And it would have taken $5 billion to rebuild everybody's homes and restore all the damage it was done. $5 billion, which sounds like a lot. They mistakenly sent an extra $6.5 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So what they accidentally a rounding error.
What they accidentally sent to Ukraine would have reestablished the lives of everybody in Lahaina.
Would have made them all whole again. And now that you look at California's getting $770 a person.
Well, that's a little better.
Yeah, than $750. You got to account for the higher cost of living.
Yeah, gas.
Yeah. Gas is expensive in California.
They'll tax it. So I mean, it's
unreal.
It's unreal.
And when folks don't understand, you know, the government is not the government is an entity that's meant to really to support the people. Like it's here in you know, in a certain respect. It needs to be significantly smaller, and the bureaucracy is out of control. Yep. But if you have government money left over, I'm okay using it to help people. This was a debate they had back in the 1920s. There was a series of natural disasters that hit Middle America, and they were debating as to whether or not the federal government was even supposed to help the state. Mm-hmm. This is a state this is big states' rights time still in America. And they said, I don't know, this is a debate we need to have. Should we send money? Should we send tents? Which they wound up sending some things. They sent some tents and other stuff, but this was actually being debated, and now it's, you know, I'm okay with it as the country becomes more successful, but all the other stuff has become so inflated that it's now the priority because the war cycles back into the military-industrial complex. It feeds the people that keep them elected, and when you have actual American people, not billionaires who want to maintain their fifth home, getting the money, you know, the American people need the money, not them. They always, 100% of the time, side with those, with wherever the money's going to get them. We can send the money so it can come back into the entities that are going to get them reelected.
And then you've got things like Hunter Biden getting $30 million for his paintings. And you got to sit back and go, wait a minute, didn't they the insurance companies just bulk canceled all these people's insurance for their houses?
Yeah.
And then he still got a policy for his art in the same place. I guess it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I you know, too many little question marks there.
There's a lot of them.
And, you know, so here we are a week away.
Yeah. 5 days.
5 days. And we've got 5 days of heavy prayer to maintain that we have a peaceful transfer of power and no hijinks.
Right.
I mean, and that's where we're at as believers. I will say that with 5 days to go, some little nut job organization called Hamas, it sounds like hummus, has decided, it's just the weirdest thing. They've decided that they're going to go ahead and after 2 years, almost, right? They're going to go ahead and just, you know what? We're going to release those hostages.
It's amazing how that works.
We're going to do the right thing. We feel convicted. We feel like Allah is telling us that we need to do the right thing and release these hostages.
And he just announced this today. Trump did on history. He says, "We have a deal for the hostages in the Middle East. They will be released shortly. Thank you." And that was it. And the Biden admin was part of this too. So
they have to be because it's the Biden admin, right?
Right.
But here's what kills me is that they're trying to make it a claim to fame. We got it done, but they got nothing done.
No.
They sat on this if they would have gotten it done, they would have gotten it done before now.
I have Biden's. This is the take, right? So this was today when he made the announcement. Biden made the announcement. Listen to this.
Thank you. Who gets credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh.
So he's trying to say, oh, of course it was me.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is.
So who got it done?
Who got it done? Clearly.
This is the Trump effect. It's what everybody's calling it, right? They're like, this is the Trump effect.
His theme music played 5 days in advance.
Right.
And they're like, okay, we better let them go because if not, there's gonna be and sadly, I mean, they might put American boots on the ground to help, which we haven't done.
Ooh.
But I will tell you what they will do is take the gloves off and say, stop dropping leaflets.
Right.
And you know what? We don't care what our media says. We got to get these people rescued. We got to get them out. You know, because what's happening there it's so humane. It's so kind. It's so ridiculous that they're dropping leaflets to say, we're going to blow up all these buildings. You need to leave. And so the people that are evil are leaving the buildings and going to the next set. And
well, and they send text messages and they do phone calls and they do everything they possibly can, and they've got an enemy that, whether you agree with it or not, but you've got an enemy who is hiding behind women, children. It's their preferred way to do it. Yeah, hospitals, whatever they can, the weak and infirmed. But so he's like you say, 5 days before he takes office, before he's inaugurated, this happens. And so it says hostages have been held by Hamas since they were taken from Israel during a pogrom carried out by those terrorists on October 7th, 2023. The deal on the table includes the release of hostages, some of whom are deceased, so they're going to get some of the dead bodies. In exchange, Israel will be releasing Palestinian prisoners who are incarcerated in Israel prisons. It's not clear yet what the numbers are on that exchange, so it doesn't seem... At least it doesn't seem like it's every single one, although I think that's going to be in the very near future. This will be a continuation, a sort of ongoing deal, but they're also agreeing to a ceasefire in the interim.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like, this is wonderful. And Trump goes on to do it. It goes on to talk at length about it, but really it was his envoy that was a critical piece of this, and everybody that was part of the negotiation says this. Yes, the Trump team was absolutely critical. They understand, some of the Biden admin people, at least this is the way they talk about it, or we're talking about it, is, I get it, we're not going to be here in 5 days.
Right.
You fired.
Right.
We are the ones that have the authority under the Constitution to have these negotiations, but we need to have the Trump people present. And when you add the Trump effect, like we were just talking into, do it or all hell's going to break loose.
Right.
That's enough to push Hamas over the edge. It's enough to push, honestly, Canada. I mean, this was I'll just briefly mention this. Canada said, okay, fine. We've got a trade deficit. We'll buy our submarines from you. Like, this is the Trump effect, right? Boom. Countries are caving. They've been able to walk over us for a long time. And the unpredictable, monster that is Trump, he's having an effect.
Yeah, because they can't leash him because he's not beholden to anybody.
Right.
And so that makes it really challenging because none of the lobbies own him.
Right. And
so, he just basically tells them, no, pound sand.
Right.
Like,
now this, I will say, and I'll dovetail off what you were saying a minute ago that kind of wraps into all of this. He's getting all these things done before he takes office. And you said, worried about what could happen. Are they going to let him take office? Is there, this is, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, and he had this cryptic message. He said, well, I'll let you listen to it.
I hope this is my last time at this podium, at least for a little while. I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, the only thing that would bring me back is an unexpected event in the next few days, which, as you all know, is totally possible given everything you've seen over the course of the past years. But if it is, in fact, my last time before you, I just want to say thank you for what you guys do every day. Thank you.
Forecasting. And we can just leave it pause there and leave the interpreter's face up. I just enjoy watching the interpretations.
That's a very sour looking face she's making right there.
Well, that's because she voted for Trump and she's just realizing what he's saying and she's like, huh? No.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But this is like the foreshadowing. You hear the what we just listened to. Or not listening to, but we were reading the guy talking about the generals who were trying to protect the American people from Trump. You've got Jake Sullivan coming out and saying, well, this will probably be my last time in front of you guys unless something big happens, which definitely could happen. Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, we've said it from the beginning that I will be really surprised if there isn't some kind of hang up that they're going to try to figure out a way to stay in or to do whatever. And I still believe that. I mean, I hate to say that. Have you noticed it's gotten really quiet in here? Like in America?
Yeah.
Like it's gotten really quiet.
Yeah.
The rhetoric, everything, it's just gotten really quiet and everybody seems to be going along with it. You've got him and Obama at the funeral, laughing and, like it just seems too quiet.
Yeah. We played that video clip last week, didn't we?
No.
We didn't? Oh,
no.
Man. Oh, gosh. I'm going to find it because that kind of sums up American politics anyway. I mean, it's... Here, you talk for a second because I can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
It does sum up American politics. It's two-faced. What we hear and what we see are two different things, right?
Yeah.
Except for when it comes to Jill Biden and Kamala. That seems to be pretty real. That rift is big, and neither one of them are very good at playing the game of, high. It's like the two cliques in high school of girls hate each other.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's chatting, no big deal, smiling. I did see somebody busted out like a lip reader.
Yeah.
Like, did you see that?
Yes.
They got the funniest things that they're saying about this, like, yeah, she was an idiot. She wasn't going to win,
There you go. Does that look like somebody who's talking to Hitler? You know what I mean? And like you say, it's the rhetoric's it's still there, but it's just not being it's not blasting across the speakers.
No.
It's just there, but it's really there by the folks who are so invested in, the leftist political ideology that's the only way they know how to talk. It's like
Well, it's their identity,
right? Is anti-Trump.
It's their identity.
Right. It's
Their
their identity.
whole identity is wrapped up in hating one man and speaking against one man all the time. He is the most investigated person in the history of people. He's a billionaire that they can't actually pin any wrongdoing on. And that's problematic. Well, no, he's a felon. Now he's a convicted felon. You can say what you want about that whole mess. But we all know that was just politics. It's just, we're going to go, even though nothing can happen to you, we're going to go ahead and convict you so that you're going to be the first felon that's president of the United States. Okay. I mean, I'm still president.
Yeah.
And, my first order of business, if I was him, would be New York needs to redo their entire court system because this is a mess. We're going to start appointing judges that are conservative, that care about the law. I mean, yeah, it's a mess.
It really is. I still worry about, the next 5 days. So much can happen.
Much can happen.
Yeah. And when we're watching the wildfires and we're paying attention to that stuff, which is, again, not being talked about as loudly as it should, but is making the headlines. That's really one of the key headlines that you're seeing. You see the confirmation hearings and that sort of stuff. I'm always thinking about, that's the magician, right? It's the misdirection.
Yeah, what's happening that we're not seeing?
Yeah, focus on this, and then over here,
and it is
in your pocket.
To me, it's amazing that just when we got used to the drones, the fire breaks out. Like it's almost like, okay, what do we need? What can we throw at them now?
Yeah,
like what can we do to get the American people away from what's happening, so nobody's focused here, nobody's seeing what's going on. I mean, we don't know. It was a tiny blurb. I guess there was another, millions of dollars given to debt relief or to pay off student loans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nobody really talks about that, but we need to be, because, I'm sorry you went to college.
Yeah. That's not on me.
It's not my fault you went to college. It's not my fault that you chose to be a major in anthropology.
Underwater basket weaving.
Yeah. Not my fault.
Yeah.
Why am I paying for that? Well, it costs so much more to live now than it did when you were in college, but I still paid for my college.
Exactly.
You're right. It does cost more now. College costs more, houses cost more, and the wage isn't as much. Again, not my problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. This is what we need to get to tonight.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is absolutely crazy. So I'll give you the rundown.
Do you think, before you play it, do you think that this is coming out because we have 5 days until RFK finds out?
I think so. So to give everybody kind of the quick, before I get into the details, this is new recordings about the JFK assassination. These are recordings that haven't been released. Alex Jones had them. In this instance, Shadow of Ezra has it. I don't know who this account is. I don't know what the Shadow of Ezra is. I've never looked it up. So if that means something bad, I don't know. I just found it. Anyway, these are recordings that, again, haven't been seen. I think this is a soft launch for the JFK files.
Yeah.
That somebody, it could have been in the FBI. It could have been, I don't know where it came from. But an audio recording, this is how this came out, has emerged in which Clifton Carter, a former DNC executive director and close associate of Lyndon B. Johnson, allegedly implicates LBJ in the assassination of JFK. I'm going to play it, and then we'll discuss, because there's a lot to discuss.
You're good to see you. How's life treating you today?
Well, Saul, it's been a pretty touch and go situation. Lyndon and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal with that he hired Mike Wallace to assassinate the president. It's been hectic in every way, but we've lived through it this far, and I guess we'll continue to do so. Lyndon should have never issued that order to Mike, but we've had our differences, and I'm a true blue to Lyndon, as I've always been, and tried to carry out every order that he'd ever given me. But this is one I'll probably never be able to forget. And the times that we've had in Texas, and the embarrassment that Lyndon had gotten from Kennedy, I guess there wasn't anything else to do but what he did.
Well, you know, Lyndon could have really hit me if he would.
Well, Lyndon's the kind of person that doesn't want to help anyone. He's all for Lyndon, and that's the way he's pretty much always been.
Well, they had me backed up on that Henry Marshall killing, and they just kind of blackmailed me to keep my mouth shut. And if I hadn't had a bunch of tapes that I'd played after he got killed, because, 17 got killed in this situation very mysteriously. And I've done a lot of time, and I've lost a lot of money, and it's hurt my family a whole lot. And it's really got me disgusted with Lyndon in one way. In one way, I feel real sorry.
I mean, that's pretty messed up. I think that this is a soft launch.
We should just close the show out.
Think about this. Lyndon Johnson, this is implying that Lyndon Johnson was directly responsible for the assassination of JFK.
Mac Wallace.
Mac Wallace is the one that was hired by Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
And, I think that when Kash Patel, people are expecting Kash Patel to come out. He said that he's going to release the files. He's also alluded to the fact that what people think there's the smoking gun is kind of hidden away in the files. He was on Glenn Beck, and he said, look, what we know, like everybody pretty much knows how this went down. What relationship LBJ had to the CIA and the people and all the other agencies, the FBI that were involved in plotting the whole thing, and Secret Service. But at the end of the day, I think that they're preparing us for Kash Patel to come out and be like, all right, here's the rest of it. Here's the rest of the info.
Yeah.
And vice president trying to take out a president, or not trying, successfully taking out the president. There's a lot of ways to go with that one, man. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of ways to go with that one.
So many ways to go. But it's not. It's not out of the realm of possibility that something else would, be attempted on Trump. I don't know if it would be that. It's obviously not going to be J.D. Vance, but I don't know. I think people are tired of it too. Like I know I am. The conspiracy, the JFK conspiracies. I've seen 100 videos of people trying to recreate Lee Harvey Oswald's shot, and is it possible to shoot from that altitude and that angle at a moving vehicle? And
I've seen it where it was the limo driver because he turns over his shoulder, and
right.
I've seen all of it.
Yeah.
But he just implicated Mac Wallace. And here's what's interesting. So Mac Wallace shot Kinzer. Okay. Wallace began having an affair with LBJ's sister, Josepha Johnson. What kind of name is that?
That's interesting, yeah.
Josepha was also having a relationship with John Kistner, owner of a golf course in Austin. Kinzer asked Josepha to approach her brother for financial help, Lyndon. When Johnson refused, it's believed that Kinzer resorted to blackmail. According to Barr McClellan, the author of Blood, Money, and Power, How LBJ Killed JFK, Kinzer asked Josepha if she could arrange for her brother to loan him some money. Johnson interpreted this as a blackmail threat. On the 22nd of October, Mac Wallace went to Kinzer's mini golf course and shot him, killed him. Wallace was charged with murder but released on bail after Edward Clark had arranged for two of Johnson's financial supporters to post bonds on behalf of the defendant. So he murdered this guy for Lyndon Johnson, a miniature golf owner.
Yeah.
Murdered him.
Yeah.
Got him out of jail. Interesting.
Good gracious. Do we think that's out of the realm of possibility in our federal government now?
No, but this was, of course, not in our federal government now. This was our federal government then.
Right. And how much
worse are we now?
Bigger, more powerful. I mean, we topple entire countries. We were technically doing it back then a bit too, but
it's unbelievable.
It's crazy, man. Makes me nervous.
It's unbelievable.
This is why I think we need to rekindle. I try to do it. People say, I've had people say, "Oh, you got to have a little more faith in your government. You got to have a little more faith in your government. You got to have more faith in the people that are representing you." And I say, no, you don't. That we are a country born of skeptics, and the whole reason we have our Constitution is it's not to give us rights. Our rights are derived from God. It's how the whole thing starts, right? Our rights come from our Creator,
right? Endowed by our Creator,
exactly. And the Constitution is a limitation of federal authority. It's not it's not granting us anything other than freedom from an overreaching government. And they did this because they had a healthy skepticism of federal government, of people with massive amounts of power and influence. And we've lost that. I think a lot of it through the welfare system and through government assistance programs. We've started to see the government as our provider. And therefore, otherwise we're nuts if we don't trust our provider, right? Like
Correct.
it's
right.
It doesn't pass the smell test, right? So you have to trust them. They give you things to try to garner your trust, and behind closed doors and behind your back, they're doing evil and illicit things. And just like the guy who's scheming to get with retired generals to try to usurp the president of the United States, or to try to limit the duly elected president of the United States. Multiply that times millions and millions and millions and millions of employees, not all of whom are bad, but people who wield power with those millions of employees. You can look at the EPA, you can look at the IRS, you can look at agencies that have been weaponized against us. You have to have.
Let's say that again. I think that's an important fact that we don't and haven't talked much about.
Mm-hmm.
These three-letter organizations that have been weaponized against us.
Mm-hmm.
Do we even fathom this, the culture and the climate that we live in, that these agencies that were supposed to be our protectors, right? Supposed to try to help us and protect us, have become so jaded. It's all so nefarious.
Yeah.
That not only are they not protecting us, they're actually trying slowly, methodically,
or outright. The IRS. The IRS is a prime example.
Yeah.
You have a Fifth Amendment right to not self-incriminate yourself. You fill out an IRS form to file your taxes, and they are saying, we know what you made. We can track all your transactions. Now you tell us how much you made. And if you make a mistake,
we're coming to get you.
We're coming to get you. We're coming to put you in prison. It's a violation of my Fifth Amendment rights. I don't have to fill out that form and tell you what I did or did not make. I can lie to you. You can't get, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I do.
Yeah.
I get it.
Like you can't make me fill out a form under penalty of jail.
But they do. I will say there's a caveat though, because it's always like whenever I do taxes, all right, every year, it's always like to the best of your knowledge. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, this is I think this is what it was, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's the IRS is a great one. And now that they're armed,
they've bought millions of rounds of ammunition.
Why? And why are there millions of body bags in storage? Why?
Yeah.
What is happening? Why is this happening? Anybody know on Rumble? Anybody know? Anybody want to expound? You want to call in? We'll get you on. Just message producer Jared.
Yeah.
We'll get you on next week, and you can tell us why.
Yeah.
Because we sit here scratching our brain trying to figure out, like, what exactly is happening behind the scenes that all this is necessary, and who are they coming after? Anybody that proclaims the name of Jesus, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have guillotines? What kind of society has guillotines?
I read that had been debunked. I don't know for sure yet.
It has. I don't think it's been. But
You don't think
I
so?
don't
Yeah.
think it's been debunked.
I'll have to research that
No.
one.
I mean, especially when you consider that, according to this, the guy who assassinated JFK was an economist working for the United States Agriculture Department, and he was put there by the president who hired him after bailing him out. I mean, this is like, and this is probably not uncommon in our government, right?
Yeah.
Do me a favor.
Oh yeah, it's all run on favors. I mean, that's the system.
The whole thing.
Do me a solid.
I'll do you a solid.
I'll do you a solid. It's the
Don't
good
worry,
old,
I'll protect you.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the good old boy network.
Oh my gosh.
We covered a lot of stuff tonight.
That's a bomb, though.
Yeah.
That last one's a bomb.
Yeah.
So then, okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
What about Lee Harvey Oswald?
He always said he was a patsy. I mean, that's what.
And we'll never know, right? Because
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly certain the evidence is there that he was one of the shooters, but I mean, this happened twice, right? Didn't it happen to the MLK assassin?
yeah,
The assassin gets assassinated.
almost the exact same
Yeah.
scenario. Almost exactly.
Yep. Assassin gets caught, then gets assassinated, and then another assassin gets caught and then gets assassinated. You wipe away the evidence. You take away, you go 3 levels deep to it. I mean, it's like a playbook that they've abandoned that playbook now. They've moved on to other things. They can do it, in a covert way. They can manipulate the justice system. They can manipulate a lot of other things. They can blackmail people. Very easy to blackmail people because they've got access to all of your devices. The Patriot Act gives them access to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're a threat to national security, get you a FISA warrant and we can spy on you. And then leverage all that stuff against you. There's a lot more ways to destroy people other than just taking their life now. You can, there's no limits to their power. There's no limits to what they can do. So yeah, it hadn't gotten better. It's most definitely gotten worse. Transparency's, it's harder to keep a secret now. I will say that.
Yeah. Well, here's what's fun. Jack Ruby on an auction website right now that I'm looking up. Jack Ruby wrote a handwritten letter from jail implicating Lyndon Johnson as the mastermind
Really?
of the Kennedy assassination. And the letter's up for auction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe it's a deflection. I mean, we could go take this in a lot of conspiratorial ways. Maybe it's they released this as a doctored audio tape.
The letter's fake. I mean, it's $4,000.
And it's to say, let's pin it on LBJ instead of the CIA.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right before the information gets
Right
released.
before it comes out. Yeah.
Because this is the CIA's game plan, and we release that stuff to the conservative narrative. We release it to Alex Jones and these people,
Yeah.
who are going to get it out, and everybody already thinks the way that they think now that listens to these guys, and they go, okay, I totally believe that. Meanwhile, it exonerates the CIA.
So, but here's the thing: the CIA is in there now, and it's those deep state people who have been holding on to these secrets. What is stopping them? Honestly, what is stopping them from destroying it, knowing that it's going to bring down or significantly harm an agency? How do we know that what Kash Patel says he looked at was actually all of it?
You don't.
I know that they have record-keeping systems for cases and all that, but if they are able to topple governments, if they are able to manipulate people's online content, there's so many ways that they can, infect the system. It could be with a virus, and it could be for digital copies, and it could be a lot of different ways. How do we know that what they are going to show us? When Kash Patel says, "I've seen all of it," when President Trump says,
I've seen all of it.
I've seen all of it.
Have you, though?
Have you? Exactly.
I mean, all the way down to, the alien stuff that not illegals, the ones that are here, interstellarly.
Yeah.
Right. How do you know if that's all of it? How do you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're only going to do what they're going to do. And it's sad.
Because there's SCI that I've heard that there's a lot of SCI that even the president doesn't have access to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, who are these people it's like Bill Gates coming up with bioengineered mosquitoes, right?
Right. Which he's done.
Who do you think you are? Like, who are you to do that?
Yeah.
Who are you to release this into our atmosphere?
Well, it goes back to what we were saying before. It's that God complex. That
yes.
You are too stupid.
You don't know. This is
don't
good.
know. Let me handle this.
Yeah.
I'm the only one, the guy in the CIA who handles that information on a daily basis, or all those people. It's a badge of honor. I'm the guy who handles that stuff. You're too stupid. You don't need to see that.
But here's the other half of it. And I really believe
you can't handle that,
You track it back. And I believe that all the people and all the players that are involved in this stuff now have historically come from a lineage of families that are not capable of compassion, capable of Christ, if this makes any sense.
I don't know.
I believe that there is a seed in them that is purely demonic.
Yeah.
And I'll stand by that.
Yeah.
These people are evil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you don't get evil. Like, we're all born into sin. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between being a sinner and having a sin nature.
Yeah. So you're talking about like the Rothschilds and the Bilderberg folks and
evil.
Yeah. Like being raised from the get-go into that world of evil, intoxicated with the power, the money, the influence, the fame.
Yeah, and I wouldn't doubt, but you trace those families' lineages back, and in that seed are men of renown in the Bible.
Yeah. Oh, you think so?
I would 100% think so. I think you can trace it back and go, yep, you know what?
That'd be a cool social experiment to try that, to see if you could pin that. If you could go back through, I think that ought to be a project. That ought to be a project.
I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would do it exactly, but
I'm sure you could trace it. I mean, people could
back
trace
and go. All these families that have been in power and been in authority and been. You look at it; they're all related somehow. It's all this. It's like, how are these people?
Oh, there's the girl who did it was like a high school, or junior high or whatever family tree thing, and she traced all the presidents with the exception of Donald Trump back through all these lineages.
Yes.
Yeah, and they came from like a couple of people. I mean, it
wasn't very many.
Yeah, it was like one or two folks.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess if you really want to go there, we're all from one or two folks,
Well, yeah, technically.
Okay,
yeah.
So I get it, but I'm wondering if the strains of these people that are nefarious, that are in power, listen, Bill Gates isn't smart enough to get there by himself.
No, Have you listened to his earlier interviews?
Yes.
That guy was a mouth breather.
Yes. Yeah, yes, he is.
As we used to call him, crayon eating window lickers. Yeah. That's what he is.
Right. And so you sit back. Oh my gosh, I got this. I'll tell you now because it's funny. I was listening the other day. There was a preacher on the radio, and he was a Baptist preacher. Heavy. God.
I always say spells God with a W.
Yeah,
God.
So he. Obviously, they didn't understand the concept of having a gate on his microphone. He had like a headset on. And his breathing was so intense and bad. And it was so distracting. Because he's like, in the beginning, God created. And I'm like, I can't listen to this. Who are his handlers?
Right.
Like, somebody's got to tell him, Timmy, lay off the breathing a little bit, buddy. I mean, it was so bad that I actually called my brother-in-law, who's a pastor, and I'm like, listen to this. And I'm driving, holding the phone down by the speaker, and he's hysterical. He's like, oh my goodness, that is awful. Yeah, mouth breather.
Although I did that at my dad's. My dad asked me to speak at it was Memorial Day, I believe.
Yeah.
And so was at his church, and I'm used to, like plosives aren't an issue on this one. Plosives, everybody, by the way, are, when you get the P sounds.
I'll move it. I mean,
yeah.
It.
And his was hypersensitive.
Yeah.
And I recognized it because I could hear it. I've got an audio video. I've got an ear for it.
I'm a guy.
I was pulling the microphone down and it was still picking up all those plosives. And I was like, after it was done, I said, look, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that this microphone was this sensitive. But my tone is my tone. And I was, I was just.
It's almost like you want to sit back and go, okay, I'm reading through what I'm supposed to say. I've got to take all the P's out of it. Like I can't have a P in there. You can't just.
Well, my dad, he's a big man, 6'6", but he's relatively soft spoken.
Yeah.
He's more of a soft and that type of a delivery,
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have to worry about the plosives, but me.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, I'm projecting. I'm talking to the back of the room.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah. JFK was assassinated by Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
Whew.
I'll be interested to see. I want to see how many days it's going to take. That's the big question. They say within the first 24 hours.
I mean, we've got a lot to open up in 24 hours. He's promised a lot. He gets in office. Well, here's the thing. He gets in office. You don't know. I want to say we're going to know Epstein's list. I want to say that we're going to know what's going on with P. Diddy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pam Bondi says that the Epstein list needs to be released, that these people who are, he's gone. If you are on that list, unless you are a witness or a victim, you don't have any right to anonymity.
You have no right.
No.
What are they waiting for?
Yeah.
Money.
The largest child trafficking ring in history with no customers.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's pretty insane. $20 says Disney shuts down after that list is released.
Oh, they lose like 25% of their.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
I shouldn't say that. That's not liable, is it? I don't think
it is. No, because we didn't say which 25%.
No,
but, I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh,
I wouldn't doubt it. Oh, that'd be so great. No more African American Little Mermaids to deal with. It'd be so great. The woke side of things.
The woke side of things.
Okay,
you want me to bring this one up?
Yes.
You were talking about that, and it was one I'd pulled up.
Yeah, we've got to talk. Yeah.
Oh, boy. So an activist teacher in Missouri charged. And the reason that I pulled this one is because it is every single week. Every week, another article like this comes up. And look, I'm not saying that it's not all or the other, but I'm saying the bulk of the people who are being charged with this stuff wave that flag. It's the ones that don't, that are part of that community, that you don't really have to worry about. You know what I'm saying? It's really wild. Like, I think of Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is a gay man. He's a political commentator. He's a very good political commentator, but he can't stand this stuff. He just lives his life as he wants to live his life. He's not flamboyant. He's not doing the whole, the silly TikTok videos and all that.
Yeah.
The more flamboyant they are, and the more they wave this flag,
the more vocal they are.
Yeah.
I think that what you mean by flamboyant, is vocal. Like,
yeah.
The more outspoken they are, the more this is the hill you're choosing to die on is sexual.
Right.
The more this is likely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess I should say more activist in nature.
Yeah.
So many of the articles that I've been reading are people of that ilk.
I've noticed.
That set of stripes. And you have to understand, people think of this as they pitch it as a lifestyle. This is all about sexual preference. This is about the sexualization of our society. And when you've got teachers that are, which we've seen tons of videos of teachers going on TikTok and saying, this is what I'm doing to your kids, i.e. talking to them about sexual things at a very, very early age. And I see one right after the other. Activist this, activist that, LGBTQ, child sex crimes, child sex crimes, child sex crimes.
It's not to say all of them.
It's not. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there is a preponderance of.
Wouldn't it make sense though?
It's anecdotal. I'll find the stats on it, but
wouldn't it make sense though? I mean that, I think God gave us a really good example in Scripture with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Yeah.
Because they were this is like the little known. We all look at that story. The world knows that story. This guy knows that story, and the church has pinned it on, and explained it like, well, God hates gays, and so he blew up Sodom and Gomorrah, and it rained down fire, killed them all. Like, wait a minute. That it isn't the preference that God despised; it's the heart, right? And it wasn't just gays. Mm-hmm. When the angel appeared to Lot, the men of Sodom and Gomorrah came and wanted relations with the angel and wanted Lot to give him the angel. And meanwhile, Lot's 2 daughters are there. They didn't want them. They want the angel, right? Fast forward a little bit. They get out. What happens with the 2 daughters of Lot? They try to sleep with their father, which shows a overarch. It's sex, period. In the big picture, being impure. Mm-hmm. What God designed for procreation, man's hearts had become so distorted that we couldn't do that right. And I think that's the big picture. It's not just, we look at this guy. Yeah, okay, his preference was LGBTQ and K kids.
Yeah.
Right? Add the K in that. That's, because that's, some of them are trying to normalize it even. It's like, no, it's not okay. It's anti-God's design and plan. It's that simple. And so I think what happens is whenever we get sideways on this, and it's all the way down to rest. I said we have Sabbath because we have to rest. God rested. God commands us to rest. We couldn't do that right. So Jesus says, come unto me, all you who are weary, heavy, and great. I will give you rest because you guys aren't doing it right. You're on your own. We can't do anything right apart from Christ, right? We can't. You can't do it for yourself. He's got to be the one to do it for you. This guy's struggling with his sexual identity. Christ is the only answer for him.
Yeah.
Right? Christ was the only answer for Lot. Well, he didn't know Christ then because he was Old Testament, but
right.
Yahweh was the only answer for Lot.
Yeah.
Same. And it just breaks my heart because we want to focus on the sin rather than the heart over and over and over and over again. This is what we do in Christianity, in the church. And none of this actually matters. It's an action. It's a manifestation of a problem. It's not the problem. It's the manifestation of the problem, if that makes sense.
No.
So, no.
It might be because I'm tired.
Well, you don't have a sexual preference like this without having something else going on.
Okay, yeah.
Right? I'm reminded, I've read a story about it, or heard a story about a church where one of the staffers came and was caught in an affair. And so the people said, what's the problem? The church said, what's the problem? Well, I had an affair. Mm-hmm. Well, we know that, but what's the problem? Well, I had an affair. Right. What's the problem? Like, why? What drove you to that?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What is it that drove him to this?
Yeah.
What was he looking at online? What was he, because it's a rabbit hole. It's a trap.
Sure. And they say that a lot of these sites, some of these sites out there will push content to people specifically to monetize different forms of content to where it's even getting into the illegal and that sort of thing. Like it's straight up evil.
It's evil.
The way that they run those sites.
And the algorithms, I even texted my wife yesterday because on my Instagram feed, I clicked follow on 3 different things yesterday. Barstool Sports.
Right.
Okay. Funny.
Funny. Yeah.
It's great.
Funny.
Like a gun combat. I don't know. I don't remember who it was, but it was like a gun thing.
Right.
and a guitar thing. 3 things. So shut it down, do more work, come back to the car, I'm in the car getting ready to go home, and I'm just scrolling through Instagram a little bit, trying to look for some things to talk about, just, knowing the show's coming. My reels had changed.
Oh, yeah.
My reels had changed from the normal, like I used to get reels from J.D. Farag and from Calvary Chapel and from, church. And all of a sudden, I've got like a woman in yoga stuff. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This isn't a common reel for me.
Right.
But it is now because apparently they've got me. I did man things. So now my algorithms are manly. And what do men like? Women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I screenshot it, sent it to my wife. I'm like, how do I get rid of this stuff? Because I have no idea. You got to unfollow. Who'd you start following?
If you click this makes me uncomfortable, there's a thing on there. So I follow, because of what I do for work, I follow photographers.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Photographers anymore, the stuff gets, it's gotten more and more risque. And so
do you have to click the reel to click on the thing that says
there's a basically there's a thing, I'll show it to you, but you can click it and it says block content like this or something like that.
Okay.
And it says why, and you say this makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it'll clear that.
See, I'm just that stupid. I'm like, I don't want to click on that reel.
I typically don't get it anymore. I've clicked, after the first several. Yeah. I was like, okay, I don't.
But it just goes to show you the programming is there.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing with this. You go, okay.
And they want to push that because it's monetized and that sort of thing.
Yes. And so, and for men, it's a rabbit hole that you don't want to get involved in because it'll trap you. It will trap you. It's one of the easiest keys of the enemy to trap you in, right? That's why, and for women too. I mean, statistically in the church, women have just as big of a porn problem as men do, which is insane, right?
Crazy.
But we wouldn't. That's so different than what we would think it would be because 40 years ago, with Playboy magazine, it wasn't like that at all,
right?
And yet it's so at your fingertips everywhere you go that you have to you have to live a life of intentionality against it, or else it will find you, and then you get in the rabbit hole, you get caught, and you end up doing terrible things like this. Where I guarantee he didn't wake up one morning and go, like children. It was a slow digression. It was a slow, slippery slope into, well, that might be kind of fun.
Well, and without a solid moral foundation.
Yes.
You don't recognize it. They always say that you're the average of the top 5 people that you hang out with. That's really where you sit. And when you are become an activist,
surrounded by activists,
surrounded by people who say a minor attracted person is an okay thing, a minor attracted person is this. There's a lot of ways that it can go, and it leads people down that path. I mean, if he just wanted to, exist not as an activist or as a whatever, but just as a member of the LGBTQ community, he's free to do that in America.
Yeah,
100%. But
he's free to do that.
He's free to do that. But when you start delving into that sort of stuff,
when you actually start doing it,
yeah,
you're done for.
Yeah.
But that's why you've got to be proactive in living a life above reproach. When I was in ministry, I made it a point to never. I mean, like it was. If I gave, I remember I gave my administrator, who was a woman, a ride, like across the street, basically. But I let everybody know it was happening. My wife, I let everybody know it was happening, because I want to be in a car alone with another woman. Too many things can be said. Too many things can happen. And we see
misconstrued, misunderstood.
Yeah. And you see time and time again, men in ministry fall because they're alone with a woman. And whether it's an accusation that's false, or whether it's things that are said, and you're the spiritual authority, and so you can kind of, you manipulate her, or she might be attracted to you because you're the man that's in the pulpit on Sunday. Whatever it is that happens, I never had to worry about it with this face, but whatever happens, it happens a lot to men.
Yeah.
And in ministry, because there's a spirit that realizes and recognizes, I could wreck this. And I'm going to use the avenue that is as old as time, since the beginning, the avenue that God created for beauty, for procreation. I'm going to use that to trap men and to trap women. And he's going to do it over and over and over again. And, you know, sorry, girls, but a romance novel is no different than a porno magazine. Yeah. It's the same thing because you think differently than we do. We're programmed differently. But when you read the smut, you start to think the smut, and then you live the smut. When you look at the smut, you know what I'm saying? Garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
And so you just got to be really intentional. And, you know, in this case, and so many cases like this, I guarantee, number one, there was a moment of abuse.
Yeah.
And number two, the slippery slope was opened by who he hangs out with or she hangs out with and what they're looking on, what they look at on in content.
Yeah.
And what their algorithm starts throwing at them, which, you know, I can tell you as somebody who lives cautiously, it's amazing what your algorithms can start throwing at you just from hitting subscribe to something that is masculine.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm going back to just following Betty Crocker.
I don't even think Betty Crocker's a thing anymore, is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Aunt Jemima. Aunt Jemima's back, though.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure.
That's wonderful.
We're going to have to look it up now that I said it. I don't want to screw that up. But
yeah, I thought she was gone forever. Aunt Jemima. How do you spell it? I don't even know how to spell that. Yeah, there it is, Aunt Jemima.
See if I can buy it. Yeah, you can still buy Aunt Jemima original syrup, and her face is on the cover.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Told you they were back.
Uncanceled.
Uncanceled.
I like
just like that.
I like it.
See, Trump does good things.
Yes, he does. Yeah. That's the Trump effect.
Anyway, if you're out there and you're listening tonight, we've now gone into Braver Than the Rest after hours. We're glad you're joining us. Getting ready to sign off. I think we've covered a lot of content, but the most important content that we've covered was spurned by, you know, Flapjack here, this guy.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to live a life of purity, you're going to have to live a life of intentionality, and you're going to have to run from it. Doesn't mean that you're always going to be perfect. Pete Hegseth wasn't perfect, but if he had lived his life, this is before he was a believer, but if he lived his life as a believer, none of this would be on the Hill right now.
Yeah.
His mud would not be slung anywhere, right? And so, yes, there's people that just have good moral fiber, wouldn't ever get caught like that, but, you know, he didn't maybe have all that. Well, and he was drunk, right?
Yeah, yep.
Which now he has a drinking problem because he got drunk one time at a hotel. It's unbelievable. Walk in forgiveness and live with intentionality. There you go. That's our message from Braver Than the Rest tonight.
That's it. That covers it all.
That says it all. And never trust Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah. Not to be trusted.
Not to be trusted. Not to be trusted. Till next week, when we will hopefully be able to talk about an inauguration.
Oh, yeah.
And if we don't talk about an inauguration, we're going to have a heck of a lot more to talk about.
Yeah.
Braver Than the Rest. If you have questions, comments, feel free to email us at thebraverthantherest@gmail.com. Go ahead and, if you're on Facebook or Rumble, go ahead and just message us. Anyway, telling Ben that you miss him tonight.
Yeah.
Ben couldn't be with us. Professor Briscoe hasn't been with us in a while. You can go ahead and chime in and be like, man, where is that short guy with the little fingers? He would love to hear from you. But yeah, please reach out, like and share. We don't say that enough. We don't push ourselves enough. We really need to start to do that because
that's really key to it.
It's key because we can't even afford to buy like pizza once a week. I would love to be able to do that through this show. That'd be great. Anyway.
I'm lactose intolerant, so it might not be as enjoyable a show.
It'd be fun. It would be fun though. It'd be a great time in here.
Everybody would know the camera goes to Jeremy, and there's nobody managing audio, video.
It's all gone, and all you hear in the background is, "Oh Lord Jesus!" You know, yeah, it'd be great. We should try it sometime.
Oh gosh.
Braver Than the Rest. Keep your eyes to the skies. Our King is returning.